So, let's get started. Good morning, guys. It's my honor to be here presenting my research of the dissertation for you today. And my topic of the thesis is research on the spatial reconstruction of Hakka settlements in Fujian under smart decline theory. First of all, is my keywords, the theory, smart decline theory, which is brought up by a urban planner of the United States, and which I will explain later. And of course, keywords number 2, Fujian Tulou, which we will explore. And third is Hakka settlement. You know, my major is actually urban planning, which is a branch of the architecture. So my research field is not only the architecture itself, but also the field around and the area. Spatial hybridization and spatial reconstruction is the way that Tulou and the area around is constructed, and the way of how to optimize the current field and situation. So let's get started. I would like to explain my thesis by 5 parts. Number 1 is the introduction, of course, and number 2, 3, 4 is the body body parts of my thesis, and then the conclusion and innovation. So let's start from the introduction. This is the Tulou cluster, which we will be in during spring festival period, and there are so many conflicts between urban areas and the village areas. Not only Tulou itself, but also do the rest of the areas, as we mentioned before. Number 1 is the development of urbanization and population hollowing out of rural settlements, which we have mentioned in the previous lessons. Look, this is a large job fair in a city, full of people and elderly and children living alone in the countryside. This is the current situation, very common in China. But number 2 might be the disordered commercial development in traditional rural areas and occupational destruction in national landscapes and settlements. Those pictures are all taken by me, and one is look at those Chinese words, meeting, welcome to Tulou tourist attraction, right? And Tulou is supposed to be developed places instead of tourist attraction, which means a large proportion of the population living in Tulou are now external people instead of the local aborigines, which will I will show you the data later. And then it's the Tulou next to my hometown. Look at that villa next to Tulou. It's a Western style villa, which is weird because right now people around, while moving out of Tulou, they just build their development randomly without any legislation set alone. Even if there is a legislation, they just ignore it and build it randomly. Third of the conflicts, in which is the most obvious one, is the ancient living space and the modern lifestyle. As we see, this is the old-fashioned Tulou area, and this is the optimized Tulou hotel with a separated bathroom. Those are the 3 main conflicts of not only Tulou, but also village and urban spaces. So here is what the fundamental theory of my thesis brought about. So this is called smart decline, which is a kind of branch of smart growth theory. This theory was started from the United States when Detroit and some other cities around are facing the same problem of population hollowing out. So how to keep restore the current developed area instead of developing new area, which is not which is useless. That is the theory that the government brought about. According to smart growth, the theory of smart decline came along, aiming at solving this kind of problem of restoration area instead of developing and expanding area and development. Just keep the current space. So from the city scale, Chinese researchers have moved into the village field, and more specifically, I would like to put that kind of theory into the research field of Hakka village, and have a try if it works. So those are my researching methods by sketching and drawing and statistical and ArchiCAD and ArcGIS and whatever. Okay, here comes the body part of the thesis. So, number 2, analysis on spatial composition of Hakka settlements in Fujian. First of all, let me explain. Those 6 pictures are very familiar with all of you guys, I think. Yeah, and Hakka settlement. Let me explain Hakka settlements. Those 6 places which are listed in UNESCO list are all Hakka Tulou area instead of another parts. So first of all, let's explain what is Hakka settlement. In southeast part of China, there is a red dot explaining all the most crowded place of Hakka people. You know, on the top of the picture, this is also a Hakka dwelling in Guangdong province. And the second is the Tulou, and the third is it's called Weiwu or Jiwu, which are also Hakka settlements located in Jiangxi and Guangdong province, which are next to Fujian, both on the north and the south. So Tulou is not only the one place for Hakka people, but also those 2 on the bottom and the top are also the field of that is that we can research if you're interested in. So the Hakka settlements can also be distributed by scale, not only by region. The first pictures is divided by region, but the second one could be defined by scale, which is town level, which is the macro scale, the village level, which is the meso level, and the building level, which is Tulou itself, because Tulou is actually the unit of my research field. And then look at the horizontal parts. Production space, living space, and ecological space. Why I divide those places like this? Because that is based on a Chinese policy put forward at around 2011 to allocate different kinds of function in each area. Urban area also has those 3 kinds of places, like production space, living space, and ecological space. We call it 三生空间, meaning 3 spaces regarding life, because production, living, and ecological space can all be related to 3 Chinese words of live. Yeah, that's the translation issue, but hopefully this translation could be understood. Okay, regarding to town level, which is the biggest, and the macro level, the production space is actually our agricultural land, and the living space is the construction land, and ecological space is the forest land, and could be divided into 3 parts. And the village level, which is the meso level, the production space is, in industrial storage land, in agricultural processing land. And the living space is those, Tulou area, Tulou, and public space, public service land, which is coordinated with Tulou itself. And ecological space, which is different from the town level, because in the village level, agricultural land is actually the ecological space, because in this level, people just work around their dwelling instead of working in the field. Working in the field is a larger scale to investigate, but in this level, village level, agricultural land, people just don't use it, leaving it to the nature. So that's how I divide those places in this level. And according to building level, okay, the production space is the ground floor and the first floor. Why? Because the functional distribution of Tulou is first floor, the kitchen, the restaurant, whatever, and the public space, and where people do their manufacturing stuff. And the first floor is the place where people store their food, right? And going above is the, living space, which is the second floor and above, and also the courtyard where people, play around, hang around with others. And this is the basic table of my research, and this table is of great significance as I going on. Okay, this is the basic data of this field that I researched. The overall scale and how many forest is covered, and how many fields covered, and the number of villages and population, and the distance from this place to the city center and whatever. Okay, these are the portion of three kinds of spaces: P space, L space, and E. Production and the living, and also ecological space in the macro field, which is the town field. Let me explain the difference between town and the city, because it's different. Town is more regarded with county. City is actually the metropolitan, something like that. So according to Chinese municipal thing, that is the difference. Okay. Let's go back to the two cores in that town field. Number one is Meilin Village. Meilin Village is the previous core, which is the administration of the town is located, right? And the second is the Yunshuiyao scenic area, which has been developed into a tourist attraction that attracts a lot of people. Meilin Village is supposed to be the previous core, and the Yunshuiyao scenic area is the later core. Through this picture, we're able to know how powerful the tourism is to change the core of a town. And this phenomenon can also be seen in those Tulous. Those Tulous are both UNESCO heritages. Number one is Heguilou, and number two is Huayuanlou. 76 and 71% of the population inside of Tulou right now are actually external instead of local people. So, which means they will live in Tulou only when tourist is booming. Otherwise, they will come back to their own hometown, their own city, even though it's not Fujian, and also come back to where they used to live. Maybe it's in the countryside, maybe it's not. maybe it's Guangdong province or whatever else. That all happens. So in the Tulou, the population is becoming more complicated than before. Yeah. And those are the commercialized Tulou. Instead, there are also some Tulou which are facing severe population hollowing. You know, two kinds of Tulou are on the completely opposite parts. Okay, those are the numbers of Tulou that I've researched. Some of them, just like Heguilou and Huayuanlou, Heguilou and Huayuanlou here, they are, you know, they are being prosperous and with a lot of people. Their development is not a problem. The problem is the rest of them. Some of them are just hollow shell instead of a building. Some of them just demolished by nature, which we will see in the later slide. Okay. Let's go down to the village scale. For the village, you know, there are 9 villages in the Meilin town. The one that I chose is Meilin village, which is the previous administrative core of the area. Okay, let me explain this. The town is called Meilin, and the village that I choose is also Meilin. So same name, different scale. Yeah, we have to clarify this clearly. Meilin space. The reason for me to choose this place is that Meilin Administrative Village is the cultural, economic, and political center of the town. It's not only has the University of Hakka Village, but also has the popularity of town settlement, which is an important transition between village space and town space. You know, between village and city. It's a very good buffer area. And this is the terrace of that area, and also what does it mean? It means 22.33% of the area were built zone, which cannot be moved anyway. And then we have unsuitable zone, which is 27.37%. That places are so-called ecological space, which cannot be moved or reconstructed as well. Our forest and fields and something like that. But in between, resilient zone are places that are not being defined so well by local people and also the government. Those are 46.25% of the place. So we still got half of the chance to revitalize the region. Okay? Okay, here comes my favorite one, composition of the building. Okay, this Tulou is a circle Tulou, which is next to my home. And it's a typical Hakka Tulou with the corridor on each of the floor. And this field is what I investigate and draw. Okay, these are my drafts. And this is the detailed composition of that Tulou in the sketch, axonometric sketch. As we can see, the corridor is very obvious, making sure the possibility of flexibility is guaranteed in Tulou. And also the first floor and second floor, third floor, different function as you might know, and also the poultry. And coming up, Hakka Tulou is not only famous for its corridors, but also its affiliate places and how they block every unit by setting doors. You can see this is the main part, which is similar as the picture before. And this is the accessory part. For example, in the old days when a Tulou has a large population. So this first floor is not enough to store their food. That's why they will build up another surrounding area which contains their storage, and also their kitchen could, their function of the kitchen could be extended, and also there are some service of their house could also live in that kind of place instead of the main place. Okay. Same corridors as before, but also those two doors are the blocks of each unit, guaranteeing the privacy, also the territory of each family, right? Remember back yesterday, Professor Lee says that the privacy of Tulou is way weak than that of Zhuangzhai and Tubao. That is true. That is true. So that's why ancestors that built Tulou create those kind of place distribution, making it a third one. This Tulou is what I called a transition between Hakka Tulou and the Minnan Tulou. Why? Because here comes the Minnan Tulou. Minnan Tulou is the one which is similar with Hakka in the surface, but completely different in the inside, right? Minnan Tulou is divided by unit. There is no corridor in the middle. Instead, every unit has just one staircase that links the vertical space only. But the horizontal space, they cannot pass through unless it's on the ground floor. That's the differences. Let me show you in this picture. This is the corridor, right? This is the corridor, and this is the staircase which goes up. And then they have those respectively distributed doors. Each door blocks a territory of one family. What's weird is that this Tulou is also located in Hakka area, but the place is very close to Minnan area. So if this one is a symbol of transition between those two typology, is still a question that we can discuss. Yeah. And this is also something that I'm really interested in.
Sorry,
Yes.
can you repeat this part?
Yes, of course. About
This example that is a transition between two different typologies.
okay. Yeah, this transition between two typologies is just my theory. Just what I came about, because regarding Minnan Tulou, as we draw like this is the first ground floor, and every unit is distributed respectively. Why? There is a staircase in each unit, right?
And there is no communication between
No.
okay.
Making it easier to go up to the first floor, which is the same as the
Okay.
ground floor.
See.
And as for the Hakka area, Hakka Tulou is the ground floor with specific staircase, like
And corridors on the
yeah.
first. Okay.
and as you go up, there is a corridor that goes around and links each family. Yeah, the Hakka.
So for HAKKA, there is more sense of community if we want to.
Exactly. Exactly. Toulouse actually is a community itself. We can regard it like that. Let me explain two words. Hakka. Hakka is both two things are Chinese word translated directly. Hakka is a Chinese word meaning being guest in other places. Because those cluster of people are chased by previous Mongolian and nomads from the north, and perhaps they were failed during the war. Perhaps they were moved out of drought and poverty. Anyway, they moved from the north to the south to the Fujian, making them not local people from the long history. But right now they're local, they are resident, they're or whatever. But in the history, they are actually just like United States citizen. They are not actually Indian. You know, Indian are Aborigines of the United States, but yeah, that is kind of similar, the story, but you can think of it as United States. And then here comes Minnan Tulo. Minnan is actually a expression of location. Min is Fujian. So we can see from every card's rear, which says there is a Chinese character, right? And there is a capital letter and there's number. And that Chinese character everybody sees is Mi, which is Fujian itself. Mi. Nan is the south. Nan is the south. Dong, east. Xi, west. Bei, north. Nan, south. So Minnan is the southern Fujian. So those two kinds of Tulos, this is the meaning.
But there is not a sort of difference between each floor. For example, if there are the richest on the last one, the poorest, a sort of hierarchical subdivision. For example, there was not a sort of boss with a specific house of one of these.
Yeah, that's a very good question. That's really good. Because, no, there is no certain social level, social hierarchy in each Tulo community, because the purpose of building Tulo is to weaken that kind of hierarchy, making everybody living in Tulo, making sure the democracy is guaranteed. Instead, there are still some kinds of symbols that represent the hierarchy of ancient people, because China is a country of great sense of hierarchy. Circle Tulo is transformed from square Tulo. In square Tulo, you can see the hierarchy of each unit, because on the back it's up, on the front it's lower, and also in circular one, if there is a gate, then if you go straight ahead, there is an ancestor room, right? And the ancestor room is normally the most important part of a Chinese dwelling, making these kinds of this area important, more important than the rest of others. But from the service, we cannot tell because it is circular. But the distribution of every unit in HAKKA TULOU is the weakest the hierarchy regarding the rest of Chinese dwellings. So yeah, I personally think that is a big evolution for the ancient, strong sense of hierarchy.
This was a question for later, but maybe I can
Yes.
ask it now. We've seen that during the evolution of the globe, and yes, there was first the rectangular type and then the circular one. We've seen that even though it's an older kind of model, the rectangular one, it was still made after the birth of the circular one. It didn't disappear completely.
Yes, of course, because the way of making this one is even harder. So in order to save money and time,
They still made it.
yeah, they still make it. Yeah, and also, have you read the book of Huang Hanmin about Fujian Tulou or anything else? Yeah, I highly recommend that book. That is the basic research of when you about to start. Oh yeah,
Can you write it? Can you write it?
Yeah, of course. And this is the writer. And yeah, back to the point. Let me continue the presentation. Okay, this is a very important part. Although I have found a kind of transition between those two parts, this is what it looks like right now. So the completely Tulou is demolished like that. So it's very urgent for us to save the area, right? Okay, those are the comparison between among those three things now.
So how they solve the problem of the angular room? Cioè, Claudio, aiutami. Sì, l'accesso, quindi cioè l'unità comprende anche l'angolo, sempre.
Comunque sembrano delle rettangolari.
Sì.
How did the Hakka people solve the problem of the access in the corner rooms?
Corner rooms.
Yes, we read about that the main problem of the rectangular flows were the corner rooms because the access was always different.
Yeah, they're not able to solve. Okay, that is also a symbol of hierarchy. The weakest family in the Tulou could be forced to live in that place. Yeah,
Okay.
and also if each Tulou is different. If one Tulou is more democratic, then they will let me explain how to describe it in English. Okay, after the new rectangular Tulou was established, they will set a game drawing each room
Like
of
straws.
every family, like taking chance, so that there will be no, bargain and argument among each family. Yeah. So, getters are winner, losers are weepers. As time goes by, those family whose wealth or status are becoming weaker, perhaps they will forced to that kind of areas. Yeah, which is kind of sad, but you have no choice. Well, there's the power. Yeah. Yesterday we have discussed the defensive function and also the dwelling function of Tulou, Zhongjai, and Tubao. So I've also made some research of Zhongzhai and Tubao. Look at the window. Yeah, I guess you guys already know that in some castles of Western countries, the outside is very small and the inside is pretty big to, guarantee the safety. It is also shown in those areas. About those research, I have measured the average beta divided by alpha is 4.27 in Tubao and 4.15 in Zhongzhai, and only 1.28 in Tulou medium. In Tulou, the window is more of a normal window instead of a defensive one. Yeah, the last one is the pictures I last year.
So in the Tubao cases, the windows were practically marble walls from which you could shoot away.
Oh yeah, some of the windows are exactly like those in Tubao and Zhongzhai, but most of them are like normal ones. So when you're traveling in Tulou areas, you can see different types of windows. But in Zhongzhai and Tubao, almost all the windows are like that. Okay. This is the inheritance mode of Tulou. A little complicated, so let me explain. Okay. This one is the one on the top is the random allocation. The one on the bottom is the vertical allocation. So the allocation of each family starts from the bottom. Starts from the first floor. Starts from the ground floor of each Tulou. They allocate the kitchen to every family, together with the restaurant and something regarding life facilities, right? If family A is allocated of this site, and then they go directly vertical to the top. That is the simplest one, and that is very normal among almost all sorts of Tulou. But here it comes different one. In Heguilou, which we might go during this trip, in the Yunshuiyao area, which is next to my home. The Tulou in that area is distributed differently, which is random allocation. So normally, when each family is allocated, they will take a chance only once. It's about kitchen, right? But in something like Heguilou, after establishment of the Tulou, each floor should be taken chance, making it easier, making it looks difficult for us to understand the picture. Okay, this is how they distributed in the first generation, and this is the second generation. So this is one family, and this is another two, and this is a third family. Just suppose it has only 3 families live. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and this Tulou also has 3 families lived, which is 1, 2, and 3. That goes directly vertical, and this is distributed randomly. Why? Because people living in this Tulou want to guarantee the flexibility of the corridor. Because once a family is allocated this way, if they have issue with other families, they can block the corridor. So actually, the function of the corridor is very well guaranteed through this way of allocation. Although very few Tulou has this distribution, right? So, and that is, actually this is why corridor exists. Otherwise you don't need corridor as well. So, yeah, that is also a tricky point which you can explain, because why most of Tulou obey this type of allocation instead of that one, even though that one looks better. Yeah. And this is also what I'm interested in. I am right now researching in this field. Yeah, we can research it together.
So let me get this straight. In the first example, in the first floor, there was one kitchen for each family. And it would stay the same way for the next floors.
Depends. Not only one kitchen for each family, but once a family is allocated with the kitchen,
Yes.
then it goes straight away.
Yes. In the second example, it was random. I mean,
Yeah.
they could be distributed different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's continue. Okay. Third part is the analysis on spatial hybridization of Hakka settlements in Fuzhou. Okay, let me explain the hybridization. It's actually a chemical definition, meaning the process by which atoms form molecules. So each Tulou are just like cells in every atoms, and they randomly compose and construct throughout the history. So are we going to make it more constructed or just let them happen randomly? As we can see from the current situation, if we let them develop randomly, those Western styled architecture and those conflicts between each other will come along. So actually, I don't personally support the theory that a village should be only developed by the citizen itself, because if it's developed without any planners or architects, it will be developed in an uncertain way. So, yeah, we can help it anyway instead of making it on their own. So this is hybridization, and this is reconstruction, which is the way that we will do. And coming up, spatial reconstruction is the orderly integration of spatial hybridization. So, spatial hybridization is that big, and we are doing the core of that randomly distributed hybridization. So that's why I bring up the smart decline theory to do this. And my target is Hakka settlements, of course, and that brings up my title of smart reconstruction of Hakka settlements. Yeah. And that is the whole logic of the thesis. So coming up is all the issues of town area. Yeah, those are the issues, as you can see. Making it the most important in town level, the construction land, the living space, construction land. That's the issue that we would like to solve. As for the village level, those are the issues. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, of course, Tulou continuously hollowing out. And also, in this scale of hollowing out, people are not only moving to the city, but moving to the Tulou outside. Not simply because the building is out of population, but also out of the reason that the living facility in Tulou is not suitable for modern need. Yeah. Yeah, and also sometimes farmland has changed. Farmland has changed due to the non-working and most importantly, those buildings are driving me crazy. Yeah, so this is a very acute problem that we have to solve. We have to solve.
Big wall of
Yeah.
metal.
And yeah, here comes the problem. Three places are very, very important to solve. So which is the right order and how are we gonna pick, how are we gonna make a list of what is gonna put in the first place. So that's the thing that I'm going to explain later. Okay, here comes the smallest part, which is the building part, the mini part. Okay, green, red, and blue are the basic distribution of every Tulou. See, ground floor, what? Ground floor. Who could,
kitchen.
yes. And the second floor, first floor,
Storage.
and up to the third? Yes, that's the formal distribution of every Tulou. But as time goes by, things has changed. Each Tulou has been shrinked into the first floor due to the fact that citizens living in Tulou are becoming elderlies. So they were not able to go up by staircase. So right now, in most cases, Tulou distributions are like this: kitchen, storage, and living room. Yeah, that is what you can see from many Tulou when you go along the trip. Yeah, same as the square one. Yeah, those two cases can be seen in most of the Tulous. And also, some kinds of Tulou, just like what I explained before, is demolished by nature, by human beings, and sometimes when ancient Chinese dwelling was not lived by people, then it will crash right away. So the production space and living space are of both great significance of building level. So spatial hybridization in building, one is the random distribution of space and the other is the continuous disappearance of the whole. So which one should be the most important? We have already one, two, annoyed, and as the rest of them are so important, so how we choose the order? I brought about the AHP analysis and the smart reconstruction of Hakka settlements. Here is what I brought about. Yeah, this is where I have reached. And coming up is the analytic hierarchy process. It's a kind of algorithm to define which one is the most important and blah blah blah. Coming up is the table with different importance on which we have to focus on in order. Yeah. You guys can take a look. Yeah. That's the result of the analysis. And shall we continue? Yeah, let's go back to the previous complex that we mentioned above. A, B, and C. For the A, development of urbanization and population hollowing out of hollowing settlements, I brought about one strategy of moderate reduction of construction land in town. And number two, disordered commercial development of traditional rural areas and occupational destruction in national landscapes and settlements. Smart activation of production structure in the village. And third, ancient living space in the modern lifestyle is condensed partition structure in building. So those three are the same of solving, you know, those three kinds of situations regarding to different scales. Yeah, and yeah, this is the point that I'd like to mention. Instead of leave the Tulou as what it used to be, I would like to define different room into its new functional stuff. Like this is a kitchen plus the eating room, and this is the storage, and this could be the living room. And each unit is enough. You don't have to go upstairs because, you know, the storage of upstairs could be protected by the fund of the government as long as there are people living inside. So you don't have to worry about it since you are already that old. Yeah. So living in the ground floor would be a proper choice for the Tulou people inside, especially for the old. Yeah, let me read my conclusion in ABCD. One is that Tulou is the most important basic unit of spatial reconstruction of Hakka settlements of Fujian based on the theory. And B, spatial reconstruction of Hakka settlements based on smart decline is the reduction of construction land at town level, industrial activation at village level, and spatial structure optimization at building level. And C, this is very important because normally we regard the village hollowing out, we link that kind of phenomena with the urbanization. Yeah. We just link that between the with the urbanization together. Instead, it's not. It's the hollowing out of the countryside is more complicated because it's not only from the countryside to the urban area, but also from a specific point of the countryside to another countryside or to other places of one countryside, making the previous traditional dwelling hollowing out. That is the core problem of the hollowing out issue. Indeed, planners must fully respect the indigenous people's current way of life and make responsible concessions while preserving the traditional residential area to the maximum. And yeah, this is those you know, innovations, and you guys can take a look. Yeah. And then those are some of the drafts that I did during the whole research, and grazie per l'attenzione. So any questions? Oh yeah, okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
You talked about your idea about the renovation of the living levels, but you talked about just the first floor, the ground floor.
Yeah.
So the other floor are free. Are not useless. Oh, no, it's not occupied. It's right.
Yes.
Okay, and so for the families, how many families you think can put on the Tulo with this?
In the first floor.
Yes, on the ground floor.
Oh,
No.
for those tulos that contains many families, this strategy doesn't work because this strategy only works when tulo are left with a handful of elderlies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just for elders.
Yes, because it is the last way to protect tulo from being destroyed by nature without leaving, without people
so
live inside.
the next question
Yes,
is,
yeah.
when these elder people pass away,
Mhm.
the solution is to maybe put other people to live there, or I don't know, make something different to evitare la soluzione.
Avoid flooding, faccio come risolvere il problema della...
Sì, dunque questo mi credo.
Questo è il discorso, come si riesce a trovare una maniera per riportare gente.
Ok. No.
The question was, after the elderly people pass away, people are going to be left without anyone inside.
Mhm.
But that's exactly what we are asking ourselves. Who can we drag, who can we make come inside the local in a way that we can restore them to their previous condition?
Yeah, that is also an awkward issue right now because not only elderly people but also some siblings living apart are right now centralized in one tulo, which they don't use previously. Yeah, we call it.兄弟群 or 姐妹群, whatever. 群 is cluster. 兄弟 or 姐妹 is sibling. So actually the phenomena of too low is either extended or centralized. Yeah, because due to the urbanization, people are moving out to work, to study. Some women, which who are illiterate, are forced to live inside the village, and they're lonely, without any husband. So they get together in one tulo to help each other.
So you have overpopulation inside some tulo for this phenomenon.
Huh?
You have too much people inside a tulo because of this reason, and in others there's not enough people.
Yeah,
Okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah, sure.
and those hollow tulo are just left there. Even though government puts money every year to protect those hollow tulo, they are put inside the pocket of each owner who are living nowadays in the city center.
Yes.
And that is the biggest problem. So, yeah, as for this,
And they don't do anything to solve the problem. They just take the money.
yeah, because it's useless for them. Yeah, this one is a asset. Yeah, this guy becomes an asset instead of a living space. So actually, my strategy is just for elderly people. Yeah, when they pass away, and perhaps their offspring will have more an asset.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, that is a big problem. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? We always wondered if there was a criteria or a rule that each settlement, each cluster of those follows the disposition of each building? Like, it is random, or it's there's a rule that each building follow when it's built?
Oh, there's no rule. There's no rule previously, but there is right now.
Okay.
For example, the latest Tulou, as far as I can remember, was built in 1984 or 5, whatever, 30 years from now. But the function of each room is right now very strictly ordered, regularized, because as the booming of tourism, more and more Tulou are decorated into hotel, which annoys the government. So they set up a law forcing those owners of Tulou not to put Tulou into the hotel. Just recently. So when you see those Tulou hotel, those are all made before the legislation was set.
I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
It's from yesterday.
Yeah.
You and the professors talk about the owner of Zhongjai, owner of Tulou. But this I don't understand. But if the Tulou or Zhongjai is for families, why now they have an owner,
A single owner.
a single owner?
I'm sorry.
The Tulou, for example, like the Zhongjai, are for families. Okay, multiple families.
Yeah.
But now you're talking about an owner of Tulou, or the owner of the Zhongjai, like the Japan man.
Japan.
Yes. Yesterday.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Why there is just one owner now?
Yeah, because of hollowing out.
Okay, so they are rich and they buy the entire building.
The owner is the owner of a room.
Okay.
It's not owner. No.
Ah, okay. It's good.
We also studied that in Tulou clusters, a big part of the construction of the building is the Feng Shui philosophy. How does it affect the internal disposition of the rooms, or the cluster itself?
You mean the theory?
Yes, the philosophical.
Oh yeah. The core of the theory itself
Yes.
is to make the best use of the current space instead of expansion. So I'm right now not extend any inch of space. Instead, I focus on the current space, which is already developed, but now are facing weakness.
So you don't expand, you just focus on the
Yeah.
already occupied space.
So it's not just urban planning, but urban restoration.
Okay.
But we studied that maybe I don't know it's philosophical, but there is on sketch there is a Tulou
Yeah.
at the center.
Which one would you like to?
No, I don't know if there is there, but there is in the village there is the building, there is the river, and there is the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay, but this scheme is repeated for every Tulou. But we see, for example, there are in the village with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Tulou. and this is the mountain. And then we see that is here there is another river. Yeah. There is another river with another flow and another mountain. But in the same village, But this group of flow are correlated each others, and these are correlated with the other group. So even if these two laws are in the same village, there is correlation between some of these two laws.
Yeah. Read the book. Read the book. Yeah.
Thank you for the recommendation.
Yes. You know, when one ancestor built one tulo, as the generation goes by, it will expand like this. Either building new tulo or other earthen buildings. Yeah. Not only if the family is super big and
Yes.
as the one before, they will build a new tulo. Instead, they will build several earthen buildings.
Okay.